Right, it is day 7 of MovMos. We've been moving for 6 days straight. I'm just trying to introduce you to a variety of types of exercises and movements. Maybe you'll like something, maybe you just like the variety, I don't know. But it's been 7 days, or today's the 7th day, and it's going to be a rest day. Now, I take very few days off in a sense of if I'm not running, lifting, or hiking, or whatever it might be, I'm still stretching, I'm still taking care of my body, and so I want to take you through a little bit of a little stretching routine, a little mobility work here. Free form, I have nothing planned, so whatever comes out is kind of what feels best for my body. I do know that I want to always stretch my hip flexors, my calves, the back of my hips, and my thoracic spine. These are areas that most people should focus on, especially if we've been sitting a lot. But also if you're really active, you should take care of your body, and these guys are some of the prime movers or areas of movement in your body. So that's why I like going for those 4. And the first thing that we're gonna do is just lay down on our back. I like grabbing behind my knee. I'm gonna pull my toes back, and I'm gonna pull back. And I'm gonna feel a big stretch in the back of my leg, and you're gonna feel your calf, and you're gonna feel your hamstring stretching out. A lot of people don't know, or they don't think about what the insertion point is of their hamstring, which attaches way up here underneath your butt cheek, comes down your leg, goes past your knee. It has to go past your knee to bend it, and it attaches into, or underneath, excuse me, underneath your calf on your tibia or your lower leg bone. We're doing 10 of these guys. And so by stretching out this way, you feel it in your calf a lot, but you might still be getting your hamstring. At the same time, you might also be getting your sciatic nerve a little bit. You want to put a little tension into there every once in a while. Remind it that that's a safe thing to actually do. If you've been having any issues with your leg numbness, tingling, that kind of thing, this also can be considered a nerve tensioner and help you out a little bit. And after we do these guys, we're going to do a little straight leg raise series, more of an active stretch, incorporate our core. You know, it seems like it's a buzzword, but it's been a buzzword for 20 years now, so I think it's just part of the ethos of movement culture. Somewhere about 8 to 10, I like to say. I'm a physical therapist, not an accountant. All right, so to do this next one, all we're doing is laying flat on our back. So we're gonna lock our knees out. You can lock both out. You're gonna keep one leg down on the ground, so that's gonna be my left leg. My right leg is gonna be coming up in the air with a straight knee. Now, when I say straight knee, it means a straight knee. It means don't try to get your leg up here if this is what it looks like. Okay, that's not a straight knee. I have to be respectful of what my body gives me, and you should be respectful of what your body gives you. So I'm locking my legs out. I'm coming up. Straight knee. It's as far as I get. I'm going to make 10 reps. And just with this stuff, close counts. If you get to 10, maybe do 12. Whatever feels good. I'm braced in my trunk. I have no movement occurring in my back. Keeping my opposite leg down and my knee straight. I got 1 left. And now I'm stretching out my hip flexors, I'm stretching out my hamstrings and my calves on my moving leg, but I'm starting to use my hip flexors. And if you've watched any of my low back or hip series stuff, you know that I'm always going to have you use your hip flexors before you stretch them out. So I think you know what might be coming next. Now that I've said that, just a nice comfortable pace. We're not trying to fly through this. What do we got? Oh, got about 15 minutes left before I got to get ready for my first patient of the day. Yeah, we'll go 2 more. Feel the front of my hips working, and that's quite all right. Very often we just sit all day. We don't actively use our hip flexors, and because of that, the muscles tend to just shorten up. We have this elastic property to our muscles where I can stretch it out, and if I repetitively stretch it out, they'll just stay stretched out and they'll move and they'll stay, able to be flexible and go through the range of motion. But if we keep those muscles in a shortened position, say I kept my arm like this all day, my bicep muscle and the fibers that are in it are going to just start to slowly shrink, not shrink, but come together because they're going through their elastic properties. They're shrinking up. Like if you stretch out a rubber band, it's going to stay stretched, but if you let it go, it's going to come together. If I do that with my muscles, that's actually going to happen too. So if I put my hip flexors in a shortened position by flexing my hip all day, they are going to have this adaptive shortening occur. And then you go to stand up and it can influence what your pelvis does or your hip extension when you run or things like that. The whole point of this being we're going to stretch our hip flexors. I like tucking my toes in the back because we'll get a little extra toe mobility in your great toe. And I'll talk to you in a second about why that might be important, but I'll get you set up first. You're going to be bent over, supporting yourself on your knee. You're going to tuck your pelvis underneath. Okay, so you'll see my pelvis does a posterior pelvic tilt, and then I come up nice and tall. I don't go past this. I'm not crushing my spine. All I'm doing is tucking my pelvis and coming up. Now, if I feel like I want to get more stretch here, I'm going to move my entire body forward, including my front knee, and then I'll get a little bit more stretch here in my hip flexor. But the back toe, if I put my toe here, I'm not going to be getting great toe extension. As we walk and we push off, when we're running, jumping, hopping, most things that are athletic that involve your foot, you need great toe extension to get into hip extension, but to also put force into the ground. And if you're not doing that, one, you're not going to be producing a lot of force, ground reaction force. You're not going to be able to propel yourself well. You're going to start to compensate by turning out your foot or collapsing your foot in, which they're compensatory things and you might be able to withstand it, but a lot of times it can lead to plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, jumper's knee, and low back pain, just from that big toe not being able to extend back. So that's why I like to kind of find it where you can. You don't necessarily have to just focus on that. We're doing a hip flexor stretch, but we're also working on our big toe mobility. Good. Now, if this stretch isn't enough for you, always going to give you the option, and this takes the big toe out of it, unfortunately, but you tuck, you come up. If you're like, yeah, Mike, that was good, but I'm kind of more flexible than the average bear, go ahead and reach back, but stay tall. You don't want to have to lean back to get into this position. Once again, we don't want to put undue pressure on our lumbar spine or low back to stretch comfortably. You want to make sure that you're going in the right direction here. So I feel a little bit more of a quad stretch, a little lower in the leg, but I still feel that stretch up here in my hip flexor. So I'm going to hold this one. We're going to be here for 60 seconds on each side at least. I don't like stretching more than about 2 minutes. I don't think that the payoff is worth it. You can stretch up to 5 minutes and supposedly have the same effect as 1 minute. So I say, okay, save yourself and go for that 1 minute timeline. It feels good. And from here, we're going to be dropping back onto our backs. We're going to be going through some bridging, and then we're going through a cobra to stretch out the back of our hip. The bridging is going to incorporate the hip extension that we just worked on, but also start to warm up the glutes, the piriformis, and all that stuff in the back of the hip so we can then stretch it out a little bit more comfortably. All right, coming to an end here. So for bridging, take your pick. I put out a post a couple months ago. There's like 27 bridge variations, and I forgot another 27. So for me, I'm going to bridge, and I'm going to kick one leg up at a time while remaining level through my pelvis. So I call this a bridge with knee extension. You might call it a single leg bridge, something like that. But basically what I'm looking for is as I bridge up, I have a level plane across my hips. I kick one leg out, and I remain level in my hip. I don't drop down. If I drop down, it's a nice sign of some dysfunction in that supporting hip. And I know I've got some work to do, but also I'm not strong enough to be doing these right now. So I kick, kick, I go down, I go up. You'll see I'm using that nice hip extension we just got from flexing our, stretching our hip flexors. Kick and kick. I'm gonna just make, somewhere about 8 of these on each side. Maybe 12, 15 if you're feeling good. Remember, it's a rest day. We're not trying to crush ourselves here. We're just trying to stretch out, mobilize, improve the way we move so we can just move more, move comfortably. I want to make sure with my bridge I'm not arching my lumbar spine, so I'm staying nice and braced in my trunk. So I'm not getting into this overarched position where a lot of people get in their bridge. They're just banging out their bridges, not thinking about what they're doing with their spine, flaring their ribs, whatever it might be. You want to bring your ribs in, stay nice and tight in your trunk. Bridge up, squeezing my butt nice and tight. And kicking. I'm going to do 2 more on each side. And I'm flipping over into, I think I said cobra, but it's actually a pigeon pose. I just like to incorporate more of a cobra pose for my upper body. And maybe we'll flow into a cobra. Work on more thoracic extension. Okay, so glutes are firing, feeling pretty good. Now, a pigeon pose, this is kind of just like every other stretch, is really individualized. So it depends on the shape of your hips, the length of your femurs and your lower leg, how your pigeon looks. And this is one of my critiques of yoga is you go into yoga and a lot of times they say, oh, you need to look like this. Well, everybody's body is so different. So if you find a yoga instructor that accepts that, acknowledges that your pigeon pose or your warrior is going to look a little different than the person next to you, that's something you want to stick with because they recognize that your body is built differently than another person's body. But to do this, you're basically going to have your leg out in front of you, and you're thinking, okay, I want to try, but it doesn't need to happen, to get my shin bones to be perpendicular to my body. And now mine will not get there, and that's okay. I'm not built that way. Now I'm looking for a stretch in the back of my hip, and typically with a pigeon, a lot of people go down here, they say, oh yeah, I feel a really great stretch. But you're also teaching your body that you're going to get some stretch in your hip while also leaving some flexion in your lumbar spine. I actually like getting the flexion in the glute while keeping my thoracic spine extended so I can teach myself the bottom of a squat a little bit better. Okay, I'm saying, hey body, you're going to at some point need to do this. You're going to need to flex your hip a lot while remaining extended in my thoracic spine. So if you're struggling to get into a comfortable or efficient position at the bottom of your squat, this is something that you might want to do. This feels good. Some of you might know I've been working my way through running 700 miles from the middle of July, and it technically ends in the middle of January, but I started in late July, and I'm looking to finish either this week or next week. So basically doing it over 5 months instead of 6. And 700 miles is the distance from Lake Tahoe to Malibu. It's a pretty interesting challenge just to kind of see where you fall. It's really impressive to see how quickly people were able to finish it. There were some people who were walking, some people were running, some people did it with teams. It's been really fun to see like kind of what pace people are going at. You know, some guy I think who finished the top 10 ran it with a 7-minute mile pace for 700 miles. It's been really, really interesting to see that stuff. But yeah, coming up to the finish there. Interested to see what I do next. I know I'm going to be trying to deadlift 400 pounds plus and run a sub 550 mile on the same day. I want to see how athletic I can get. Can I be strong? Can I be fast? I already ran a marathon over the course of these 700 miles. Just woke up one day, said I'm going to do this, headed out the door, and went. So I know I can go for distance, but now how fast can I get? So obviously we've switched sides. You'll see my shin bone is much more close to my hips. I can't actually get this one into that perpendicular position because I know for a fact my hips are shaped differently. my right leg is turned out more than my left, meaning that my femur is going to be turned, and I can't get perpendicular because the stress that would put on my knee to do that would just be insurmountable. That would absolutely kill my knee, okay? So I just stay comfortable. I say, okay, do I feel the stretch where I want to feel it? In my posterior hip? Yeah? Great. That's what I want to do. Just want to hold it there, sinking into that hip, and we're going just 60 seconds. And if this bothers you for whatever reason, a nice little option could be to go on your back, cross your ankle over your opposite knee, and just pull up. This might be a lot more comfortable for you. Actually, today I feel a great stretch here. I'm going to just stay here the rest of the time. Another 10 seconds or so. But this might be a little bit too much stress on your knee too. And so you drop that leg and you take this leg and you just pull up and over across your body. You're still going to get a posterior hip stretch. Still going to feel good. I'm going to go back to this one for a couple more seconds. And then we're moving on to your thoracic spine. I don't know, we'll try to put it all together at the end with something. All right. Okay, so a favorite of mine is something that rotation. This is one variation of it. You can just be on your hands and knees, and I'll give you a couple other variations. Let's see. Okay, so hands and knees, guess what? I got my big toes tucked under to try to get some more of that mobility. Got my hand planted. I'm pushing away from the ground actively. I'm not just kind of sunk into my shoulder, okay? So on this side, it looks like this. I'm not just sunk in. I'm pushing away. I'm going to put my other hand on my chest, and I'm going to open up towards the ceiling, breathing out as I go up, pushing away with my we'll call it your stance hand, your planted hand, to open up more. We're going for 10. That's 3, 4. Another option here is to actually sit back on your heels, put that forearm down on the ground. You'll get a little less rotation here because your hips aren't going to be able to rotate as much compared to being up here. Last one on this side. Switching sides, here we go. And there's going to be some asymmetries. You're going to turn better on one side than the other, and that's okay. One, we're built differently side to side, as you saw with my hips. But also, we tend to do things, we're left or right-handed. We tend to do things more so with one side of our body than the other. And that's going to make the way we move be different on one side than the other. 2 more. Okay. Now to put it all together, we're going to do a split squat with rotation. It's going to work on our big toe mobility. It's going to work on our calf mobility. We're going to use our quad and hip flexibility that we worked on, and the rotation is going to use the rotation we just worked on, putting it all together. I like to do that because our nervous system, our brain, our peripheral nervous system, will then learn to use that new range of motion, that new mobility that we have. Instead of just doing it and then going on with your day, you want to learn, right? And that's how it's gonna stick better when we use it. So I'm just gonna start in front of my mat. You can have a pillow, yoga mat, carpet, something that's comfortable for your knee. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just cross my hands here or up here. Let's go up here, see what happens. Now I'm going to step back with my right foot. So I got my big toe mobility, dropping down, using my hip and quad, and I'm going to turn towards my front leg. I'm going to do this next one on the other side. You can alternate, but I just want you to be able to see. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to do 6 on each side. And you can get down there before rotating, or you can rotate as you step back. That's up to you. We got 2 more to go. Awesome. Okay. Switching sides. Oh, this feels good. It's a great way to start my day. I'm not gonna be doing anything else today as far as working out. I'm actually gonna be baking a lot of cookies. Giving them out to our friends and family for the holidays. 2 more. 1. And 2. All right, well, that's day 7 of Move Moss. It was a nice, we'll say, rest day. I feel good, my body feels alert. I feel like I'm undoing some of all the effort I've been putting in all week with the miles, with the kettlebell work, with the body work, with the band work. Everything I've been trying to introduce you to, or remind you of, ways of working out, just trying to give you ideas, including stretching, including mobility. Not every day has to be this crushing, body crushing workout. Make sure you take care of yourself. You take those days off. You're drinking your water, you're getting your sleep, you're eating your vegetables. These things are important. So thank you for joining. Once again, this was day 7 of Move Moss, or Move More, because that's the goal, not necessarily to move more intensely, but sometimes we just need to move more often. And that's gonna make us feel so much better. So I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a happy holiday. And I'm gonna continue. We got about 5 days, we have 5 days left of this. So enjoy your time with your family and your friends, and I'll see you tomorrow.